Okay, so welcome to the MBA information session. Tonight I'm going to be talking about our MBA degree and taking you through all the different aspects of this course, making sure that we've answered all of your questions. And there's also an opportunity for those of you who are with us live to ask questions via the chat option. And for those of you who might be listening to this recording, we'll give you an email address at the end where you can send through any further questions you might have. Before we start, in the spirit of reconciliation, ACAP acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So in this session, you're going to learn a little bit about ACAP and why you would want to study with us. We're going to talk about the MBA, as I said, and there's the option to, for those of you who are listening live, to ask any questions in the Q&A via the chat option. And also at the end, we'll pause this recording. And for those of you who are live, you can come off mute if you want and ask questions to me directly. So just a quick overview of ACAP. ACAP stands for the Australian College of Applied Professions. We've been delivering specialist courses since 1983, so it's our 40-year anniversary this year. We're a national provider. We have campuses all around Australia. And for those of you who have already looked into our MBA program, you'll know that this is a fully online course. And we've basically created an online campus, which has all the kinds of supports that you would expect if you were a face-to-face student in one of our major cities. And if you are based in one of our major cities, you can also access our library and other resources if you want to come into campus there as well. We've got courses in management, as you know, this course here. We also have coaching, counselling, criminology, psychology, law, social work, and other courses. We've had over 20,000 graduates over the last 40 years. So one of the things I wanted to sort of talk at the outset is just a bit about the culture of ACAP and the kind of experience that you would have as a student. And we really do work hard to make sure that everyone feels comfortable to be themselves at ACAP. And as such, we're committed to creating a diverse and inclusive and safe environment and ensuring that everyone is treated equally. If you're interested, you can learn more at that link, or you can actually just Google the word ACAP and diversity and inclusion, and you'll learn more about our approach to diversity and inclusion in the classroom there. And we also talk in the orientation about the importance of creating a safe environment so that, say, in the online class spaces, that everyone's viewpoint is listened to and respected, and that we really set up the environment so that it supports students learning throughout that journey. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in orientation as well. So why students actually choose to study at ACAP? We have, with the online learning, the classes are actually live and the classes are all very small. And so you get that personalised learning experience. You get the chance to, come off mute, you have your camera on, ask the educator, the lecturer, any questions that you might have. You might be working in breakout rooms with other people in the class. We really do create that environment where you're not just sitting at home listening to boring recordings and studying all on your own. We do know that, lots and lots of the research shows the value of social and interactive learning. And also we know with an MBA course how important it is to really develop some great connections with other students, which might even inform some of your networks for potential future job opportunities. The other thing in terms of our curriculum is very much a case-based learning and assessment. And what that means is that you're doing assignments that are like the kinds of things that you would do in a business environment. So you're learning actually how to manage projects. You're learning actually the kind of steps that you would take to understand a financial balance sheet, for example, to make a decision as to which company you might invest in or divest or so on. You're learning actually how to develop a product from scratch and go through the whole process of marketing that and pitching to a kind of hypothetical Shark Tank of investors and so on. So, really lots of very, very practical learning All the educators have both either master's or PhD level training, but loads of industry experience. And they bring that industry experience into their teaching, into the kind of case studies that you're working through in every class. The other thing is, in terms of our enrolment, it's actually quite flexible. So there's the 3 intakes per year around February, June, and September. And so it's really up to you as to how you would timetable your MBA studies. For example, you might start off with, say, 1 unit. You might find that you've got, maybe even you take some long service leave or some time off work. So in 1 trimester, you might do 2 or 3 units, and then you can change that around. You might go on we've had students that go on extended holidays, so they take the whole trimester off and they keep going the next trimester. So quite flexible as to how you structure your enrolment. And just to kind of clarify with those live classes, we have them in the evening, the early evening, so that it doesn't interrupt. We presume that most of our students are actually working full time, so it mostly won't interrupt with your work. And we also don't have any attendance requirements. We highly encourage you to come to those live classes, but they are recorded if you're not able to make it. So really flexible learning options for you in terms of juggling that. It's work, life, family, health, fitness, study, and everything else kind of balance. I don't think it's work-life balance anymore. It's the whole of life that can be really complicated. In terms of our fees, like most courses and universities, we do have the government upfront. You can pay upfront, or you can use the government fee help option, which used to be called that HECS debt, and that our learning advisors, Fatima, who's on this call, can advise you a little bit more about that process as well. So you can defer the cost of your fees if you would like to. The other thing that's really great about studying at ACAP, and it's something that I've really admired, I've worked in a number of different universities over the years, and one thing that's a really strong element of the experience of ACAP students is the level of support that you get. So as I mentioned, the actual classes are live, and you have that interaction with your educator, but we also provide live academic support. So you can jump into a workshop on, essay writing or referencing, or how to do a business case kind of pitch or whatever it might be, and ask the student support team questions about your own assessment task. And pretty much everything that we develop, we always keep as a recording. So there's a whole library of resources you can access. And we can also provide individual consultations with student learning support advisors. And we particularly recommend that for those of you who may not have written an essay for a long time, just to sort of get you back into that groove and understanding those requirements. And as part of that, if you have any particular learning need, we have a really fabulous accessibility service. So we can moderate or change assessment tasks to meet your particular learning needs if you go through that process. And also all of the ACAP students are able to access free and confidential counselling. So quite a lot of a kind of safety net, even outside of the curriculum and the experience you have as an MBA student. So just very, very briefly, a little bit about me. I have developed the MBA program and the graduate certificate in applied coaching here at ACAP. I do executive coaching work, and my background is in leadership. And so you'll find that, one of the things that we really look at, which I'll touch on in a few slides time, is that, one thing it can be helpful to do an MBA and learn about the management of business, which is really what a master's in business administration is about. But really, the research shows that people that are successful and they get promoted and get the really great jobs and the great money really are the ones that have the skills and then have developed their own leadership capabilities. So we've brought that into our MBA program so that you're really focused on developing yourself as a leader. Anyway, I'm talking about the course, not about myself, but I just wanted to say that that's a real lens that we bring in to the course, is that the development of you as a leader. And that, a lot of my research is looking at the impact in the future of work and how things like artificial intelligence are going to really impact on what work's going to look like in the next 10 to 20 years' time, and the kind of leaders that are required to sort of navigate that. You can see my email addresses there on the screen as well, and I'm happy to answer any direct questions you might have around the MBA, or even set up a Zoom chat if you would like to talk about the course. Just a little bit about some of the kind of typical students that we have studying with us. Often they'll come from, middle management to senior management areas in, say, corporate, not-for-profit and government areas, maybe HR, IT, engineering, finance, lots of different industries. And the people that come and do our MBA are the ones that are really interested in that element of developing yourself as a leader, so that you're really getting good at understanding how to run business and businesses, but that you have got that interest in developing yourself personally. And you can see here that, basically our current students are, really enjoying their experience. We get really positive feedback around the educators, the passion that the educators have in their teaching. And that's another thing. We've been running this course for a couple of years now, and every trimester we make sure that we get lots and lots of feedback from the students, and we're constantly tweaking the experience that students have to make sure that as you enroll, that you receive the best experiences possible at all levels, from the logistics, from the library, from the online resources, to the teaching, to the assessment tasks, to the feedback that you get, and so on. We're really focused on that continuous improvement. So why would you do an ACAP MBA? There's lots of MBAs out there, and it certainly can be a question that I'd expect that you'd be asking yourself. And really, I'd like you to think about that the way that we brought that what I call applied business psychology as well as management together. So understanding people, as you can see here, isn't just for psychology. In us delivering psychology programs over many years, we've really been able to look at how does psychology work in the workplace, and really the exceptional leaders are the ones that have an understanding of how people tick, which is really psychology, and then how to apply that when they're working with others. And so, for example, one of the things that you would learn in this course are some basic coaching, leadership coaching skills, because the research has shown that, really effective leaders no longer just kind of tell people what to do or give advice or solve problems. That a really effective leader is one that coaches their staff to think through the problem, think through the level of development that their staff might be at, and really help them to, solve those problems themselves, so that they develop those skills that they can replicate that in other areas, rather than always having to come to the manager for advice, for example. The other thing, as I've mentioned, is that we really do focus on you in the assessment task developing real world ready or business appropriate skills, so that you know how to deal with, reports to the board level, or pitches to the executive team, or, as I said, managing projects, or understanding the legal requirements of managing staff, and so on. And as mentioned, we do have that really flexible delivery option as well. So, of course, in terms of, workplace, certainly there's been a lot of change even this year. I mean, COVID's been a massive, massive change. And now with even just ChatGPT, which is only one aspect of AI intelligence coming through, really starting to revolutionize the way that we do work. And that the research is showing, there was even something on LinkedIn this morning that's showing that more and more that employers are looking for employees that have these kinds of skills. You can see on the right-hand side that analytical thinking and innovation, critical thinking and analysis, leadership and social influence, understanding technology, understanding emotions, complex problem solving, that element of resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility, creativity, originality and initiative. So, it's a pretty daunting list if you actually think about that, and even do a mini little self-assessment on where you might be with each of those things. And it's certainly, for each of us on our own leadership journey, it's an ongoing process of getting better and better at that. But This article that was in LinkedIn this morning was talking about that there's some really awesome jobs that are going out there for people that have an understanding of how to work with artificial intelligence technology and add these kinds of skills to their current capabilities. So it's not always about having the kind of technical coding skills now, because as we know, ChatGPT can do the coding. It's about being able to the quote that I hear most often is that it's not necessarily that AI will take over jobs just as a blanket. It's certainly going to replace some jobs, but AI and people that know how to work with AI are the ones that are going to be, taking up the jobs in the future. So it's about, being part of that movement of being able to work with this kind of technology using these kinds of skills. So at ACAP's MBA, we really focus on that, as I said, that ability for you to tread your own path and accelerate your skills as a leader. And that a big part of that is that sort of emotional intelligence, the relational piece, the, being able to have difficult conversations. Actually, one of the assessment tasks is learning actually how to use a really easy framework to have a difficult conversation with a colleague, and then to reflect on how that went, and understanding your own patterns and the other person's patterns, and being able to sort of mitigate any kind of disasters in advance. So lots of really practical skills like that. And that, with the focus that we have on really looking at real world case studies, you're constantly exposed to curriculum that's applied to ideas that are like in the news. We literally have a section each week in almost every topic, which is what's current this week, and how can we think about, say, corporate governance. So when we were teaching the corporate governance unit, for example, for the first time, was when the Optus data breach happened. And so we're really starting to unpack, what was the executive team and the board of directors of Optus, what was their level of responsibility, and, how might they have been able to mitigate that kind of a data breach if they had better corporate governance at the level of their, their data analytics and protection, for example. So, you're getting exposed to the kinds of challenges that organizations are facing in every day, and sort of thinking through using lots of sophisticated frameworks and approaches to think through how you might address those kind of problems. So, as I mentioned, one of the really key benefits of an ACAP MBA is there's small class sizes, but that live online learning, so it's 90 minutes per week per class, but we actually have quite a lot of learning materials that you would access in your own time in our online learning platform. And so you're reading things, you're maybe interacting with your peers via Microsoft Teams, you might be working in a small group on an assessment task, you might be watching your educator who's done a pre-recorded video, you might be watching something from a YouTube channel on a particular piece of information that's particularly relevant to the course. So there's lots of different ways that we try and make sure that the learning experience is very broad, so that it's not just you having to read 20 academic level business articles per week, trudge your way through them, and then come to class and sit there passively and listen to a lecture. I'm hoping that those days of education are well past, and that much more that the learning, as I mentioned, is very interactive, social, and applied. So, as mentioned, some of the things that you really focus on: developing your leadership skills, sharpening your decision-making ability. One of our units is actually called financial decision-making. So it's understanding how to use financial data in making strategic decisions about a business, about acquisition, about the success, profitability or not of either a particular cost center or a whole part of a business. Providing you with a forum for collaboration and growth. So as I mentioned, we really encourage that level of interaction with our students. We like to help you to challenge your own assumptions and promote critical thinking by providing you with the knowledge, tools and support to help you to achieve your goals. So one of the ways we do this is with our high impact leadership program. So it's based on this idea of once you know yourself, that can really help with that sense of self-growth. So just like getting a personal trainer to help you with your physical change, with the ACAP MBA, all of the students will actually receive leadership coaching to help for you to develop your own leadership style. You're working in a small group with others, so you're actually learning how to coach. You're receiving coaching, and that's a really key part of your own development. We also provide, as you move closer towards the end of the MBA, provide industry-specific mentoring. So say you come from health, you will work with a industry-specific mentor, so someone from health who will help you work through your capstone project. And we have ongoing career support as well as you go through our program. This is just a kind of visual of the experience that you would receive as part of this high impact leadership program. So you can see that, the very first line where you're looking at unlocking your potential with receiving leadership coaching. Then we're looking at helping you to really sharpen your potential and develop those skills you need to land the kind of job that is key. And there's lots of elements to that. Of course, we all know now we can get ChatGPT to pretty much write our CV or our cover letter, but that most of the really good jobs that are out there are actually based on people's networks. They're actually not advertised. So a big part, particularly of doing an MBA, is learning how to leverage your network to open career pathways for you, and we provide support in how you might do that. And then, as I mentioned, that industry-specific mentoring. So you're working with someone who understands your particular industry as you work towards your capstone project at the end of the MBA. Now, our overall course structure starts with the Graduate Certificate of Business Administration, then to a graduate diploma, and then the master's. And so basically that stage one, the graduate certificate, is 4 units. The graduate diploma is another 4 units. And then the final is equivalent to 4 units, but the capstone is a double. So it actually ends up being 3 units. There's 2 class-based units, and then there's the longer capstone. And if you choose to, you can actually exit this course at lots of different points. So, we do get some people that come in and just say, for example, do the project management, and that's it for them. They've got too much on their plate work-wise. So they exit with, say, a digital badge in project management. They have that on their CV. They've got that skill set, and they're good to go. Or you could exit with that graduate certificate, which is after you finish 4 units, exit with a graduate diploma, which is after 8 units, or we do encourage people to go through the whole full master's level program all the way through to the end. So just very briefly, the entry requirements is either the completion of an undergraduate degree or higher in, a work undergraduate degree in a kind of degree that's overlaps with a Master's of Business Administration, which is quite broad, or an equivalent qualification to an undergraduate degree, plus 3 to 5 years of work experience in a professional context. So what we mean by that entry criteria is that we're only letting people into the course that have that business expertise, so that it means that the kind of students that you will be exposed to will have that middle to senior management level experience, and therefore they bring a lot more interesting conversations, depth of experience to the kind of discussions that you have in class. And as I said, that's a key part of your network. So you're not doing an MBA with people that have with very, very little experience. And that's really makes a big difference to the kind of cohort and people that you're studying with. Now, there is the option, if you don't have an undergraduate degree, but you have at least 5 years of professional or managerial work experience, you can join at the graduate certificate level. And then if you pass at that level, then you can keep going through to the graduate diploma and the master's. You can speak to Fatima about that. We call that the uncredentialed pathway. And basically what that means is that the 5 years of professional experience works out to be the equivalent of a 3-year undergraduate degree. Now, one thing is, if you do choose to join the MBA or the Graduate Certificate of Business Administration via this pathway, we really encourage you to reach out to our academic student learning support team early in your studies, because it means that you are likely to not have experience writing academic essays, and following that whole process. And so there's a little bit more of a kind of ramp for those students just to get up to speed on being part of an academic degree, a postgraduate degree. And we do have support for you in that, but we encourage you to, you might even need to factor in a little bit more time in your first unit while you learn to basically apply yourself to postgraduate study and the assessment requirements of that. So just briefly, in terms of fees and financial assistance, basically you pay per subject or per unit. And so you don't have to pay upfront for the whole master's degree. And as I mentioned, there's fee help. You can check out the Australian government website there, studyassist.gov.au. And you can also just Google ACAP and then fees, and you can find out a bit more information. And Fatima can answer any questions that you might have around our fees as well. So very briefly, this is our timetable for next trimester. So the trimester starts on Monday, the 18th of September. We have 6 weeks on, 1 week off, 6 weeks on again. That's how our trimester rolls. And we're offering these units. So leadership and professional development, leading people and change, financial decision making. So those are 3 out of the 4 graduate certificate level units. So if you're brand new, you'd start with one of those 3 or a combination. And if you've already completed those, then you could move into the art and science of business strategy, which is actually a graduate diploma level unit. So you wouldn't start with that art and science of business strategy. But you would move towards that depending on where you're at in terms of other study that you might have completed. And then just one thing to, I guess, acknowledge here that if you do have a background in study from elsewhere where you can demonstrate that you've met the learning outcomes of any of these units, we do have a credit process. So, often we call it recognition of prior learning. And we've got forms online. Again, Fatima can help you with that process. And you can apply to receive credit for up to 4 units in the full master's degree, where you can demonstrate that you have met the learning outcomes of each of the particular units you're applying for credit in. So really happy to see if there's any questions for those of you who are live. You can pop those questions in the chat. If you want any more information, you can see our email is the word connect@acap.edu.au. Our phone number is 1-800-039-139. So you can give us a call at any time. But we're really happy to answer any questions for those of you who are live, and make sure that we've covered off everything that you need.